welcome to the Post-Human Podcast.
So today's guest, and this is going to be a good episode, folks. We did a little bonus show. Kellan Fluckinger. There we go. What was it?
Pretty close. Kellan Fluckinger, but that's pretty good.
Yeah. What I tend to do is mess up all my introductions, and I was trying. Is that really how it's pronounced? I'm so off.
Fluckinger. Well, lots of people see F-L-U-C-K and they think Fluck, and then I-G, they're thinking there should be an N in there, Inger. So Fluckinger is usually the mistake, but it's Swiss, and it used to have dots over the U, and it's Fluckiger, that kind of a thing.
You see, I mean, again, I knew there was some sort of, I wasn't going to say German, I was thinking like Belgium, some sort of like Brussels-esque area. But no, I now see the Swissness in it. There should be a double dot.
Yeah, I used to have the umlauts.
Again, I'm a terrible host. I will put it out there for those people listening. I'm the worst host in the world. This is the loosest podcast in the world. It gets more terrible as the days age. But what I will say is, welcome to the show, my friend. I'm trying to keep things as loose as I can. It's something that I'm trying to personally endeavor and do, and something that I'm trying to do just because people write a whole bunch of notes and genuinely live by a script. So what I tend to do is I write a little couple of notes and then I go by, the old up here.
Sounds good. I'm all yours, and I'm happy to have it be loose and easy, so no problem.
Well, that's all good. First of all, I love the camo attire. It's you're the first man on the show to have some camo. It's a very cool attire, man.
Well, thank you. I just got it from Amazon, good old Amazon, a few days ago. It's a base layer, polyester and spandex, and I wear it as a base layer. And today it's warmed up a little bit, so I didn't need something on top. So.
See, that's something. Again, this is like with the whole Swiss thing, like with base layers. Like it's something that I'm into. Before we get really into talking about the whole show, again, what I love to do is talk about personalities and stuff and get to know people. You ever skied in Switzerland?
I've never even been to Switzerland. Really? I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, so up in the frozen north. So it's cold. But I've never been. My brother went to Switzerland, where the family, the three brothers that came over in 1880 or something, came from. And while Fluckinger is a very, very unusual name in North America, it's in parts of Switzerland, it's as common as, I don't know, Smith or something,
Oh, I don't know. That's crazy. Again, I'm a big fan. I mean, I've literally, my dad, when I was a kid, took me on a skiing holiday to put me literally right next to the Eiger,
Wow.
One of the greatest, hardest peaks in the world. And,
Well, I love skiing, but I've never been to Switzerland.
That's another good thing. One thing I've never done is skied in America, but I've skied all over Europe. I've never actually spoken to somebody about skiing. This is where I love to get people's personalities, I love to get things flowing. How long have you skied for?
I didn't learn to ski until I was 40.
Oh.
I didn't learn to ski as a kid. Some stuff changed in my life when I was 40, and I took after it with a vengeance and went every weekend for a while, several years until, actually, I wasn't 40. That's not true. 95, 2000, 45. I was 45 when I first learned to ski, and then went every weekend for about nearly every weekend for seven or 8 years, and got pretty good. Finally, in year 6 or something, I took up snowboarding. And while I got to where I could do double black runs on skis, I only got 2/3 of the way there on a snowboard. So I can handle myself on skis really well, and snowboarding kind of pretty good, but not as good.
I mean, I mean, like, you know, I'm 30 years of age, and have you ever seen blades? Have you heard of those? The little tiny skis?
I've seen them. I've never tried them.
So dangerous. it's a, it's very rare that I get to mention that because I've never spoke to anyone that has skied. Maybe they have, but those little blades, get on them, mate. They're pretty fun. You can have a wild time.
I've seen them, but I've never tried them out.
Yeah. Where have you skied? Just all over the states? Been to like?
Well, all over Montana, Wyoming, lots of places in Canada and the Canadian Rockies, Lake Louise, Banff. There's a Mount Norquay, which has a front side double black gun barrel run that every year somebody dies on. Yeah. You know, they have it. I nicknamed it. It's called Mount Norquay, but I used to call it Mount Doom. And so, you know, yeah, well, after the, you know, in the time of Lord of the Rings, right? Yeah, Mount Doom. And yeah, you know, it's just Montana's, a lot of Montanas and a lot of Albertas and British Columbia. Kicking Horse in Golden, BC is a resort that used to be hella skiing only. And then a few years ago, they put some lifts up. And if you go up Stairway to Heaven and then traverse and do the backside, there's a double black on the back that's 4,200 feet of vertical, which is killer. And it's a 10-foot drop to get in, and then
full of moguls as well.
Well, no, they don't groom anything. 10-foot drop to get in, and good luck.
I mean, one of the only reason I keep bringing it up is one of the greatest ski runs in the world. It's the Olympic run. It's the Laberhorn, which, you know, is in Switzerland. And when I was a kid, you know, my old man decided to just put me in the deep end. It was like, come and do this black. It's all right. And you know, a few minutes in, it was the steepest thing I've ever seen in my life. Most of the time, I mean, I was a kid, I was going down on my ass most of the time. You know, it was very, very crazy. But anyway, let's talk into the show, man. Let's get off skiing. Again, you're the host of Your Ultimate Like podcast. So, you know, you do a lot of podcasting yourself. I think that is the show name, correct? It's
Your Ultimate Life, yeah, and it's funny how it started.
Sorry, that's the one.
That's all good. It's funny how it started at the beginning of the pandemic, like 2 years ago now, 2 years April, actually, or March, end of March, when cases were, you know, taking off in Italy, and everybody was a little bit worried, and maybe for 5 minutes we thought, you know, this was Armageddon or something, I don't know. But anyway, somebody called my wife, who's my business partner also, and who knew I did motivational speaking and stuff like that. And she said, does Kellan have a podcast? And we didn't, but she said, yes. And so then she came downstairs and said, we have a podcast. So I decided if I was going to do it, I was going to do a daily podcast. And I started in April of 2020, and it'll be 2 years in a couple of months. And we're on episode 626.
Wow.
So it's 15 minutes a day, and it's... I really love it. I started going video with episode 600, so about 25 episodes ago, and they're we're still doing some work on those, but they'll go up on YouTube.
You're 100% up from me. I started last year, and I got into, you know, the nit and grit of it. 600 is it's just a number that some people, I mean, even me, I'm like in 60s, 70s. All I do is interview people. That's what I do. But wow, my fucking God. Like, it's a number that you go, when you talk about like the work that goes into it, you can't really, unless you're in that field and you do it, you go, oh, that's a lot, you know? I mean,
it is a lot. It is a lot.
Thousands, but even 600's so impressive. It's a lot of work. Even at 15 minutes, it's a lot a day, you know. And not even a lot a day. It's the hard thing is consistency. Saying you're going to get up and do it every day. Boom, boom,
well,
boom.
I don't. I'll record sometimes 3 or 4 at a time and get a few up in front, so I don't have to.
Don't tell them all that.
Well, I don't care.
No, I'm joking.
You know, like I'll do them. Like sometimes when I have guests, I'll interview them, and they're coming out in a week, and then I'll do 2 or 3 other episodes that are peripheral, that are related to their topic a bit, because they're only 15 minutes. It's not hard to think of some other things, and so
I know, I get you. I mean, the only thing I find is I do long form interviews. So the thing that's tricky is if something comes up in the news on that day and it doesn't release till 3 weeks later, or, well, not necessarily the case. It could be a week. You're like, it happened to me today. You know, I was talking about all the stuff going with like Ukraine and Russia. And then when I was talking about it, I'm like, well, whatever I say now is kind of irrelevant, because when my show hits in 5 days, in terms of the last show, it's like, well, it's non-relevant news, isn't it? It's very tricky to like manipulate and manage. Like, there's 15 minutes, make it consistent, and it's very impressive, man. You know, I know all the life coaching stuff. I've got all that on a mild note. I was going to get into it. I was just trying to keep it as loose as I could. I'm trying to test myself today. I'm sorry if you're involved.
You passed.
I'm sorry if you've evolved into this life experiment. You know,
it's all good.
Today thing. But no, life coaching is such a very valuable thing. I speak to a lot of life coaches. How did you get into it? What was the stepping stone?
I had no intention of being an anything coach, and I had no intention of being an author. And I had spent 30 years in energy from 1977 to 2007. And at the end of that career, it wasn't intended to end then. I was at literally the peak. I had occupied C-suite positions in the U.S. and Canada, made a lot of money, yo, big dog, yippee, that kind of crap. And but the real truth was I had spent my entire life. I was 52. I was born in 55, so in 2007 I was 52. At that time, I had been struggling for 35 years with depression. I'd never talked to anyone. I had assumed everything was my fault. I'd lived my whole life trying to prove I was okay to myself, mostly. A victim of self-loathing. I'd engaged in a lot of self-sabotage, had tremendous career success, and ruined it. Had been married and divorced 3 times, been in and out of rehab as a drug addict and the whole 9 yards. Everything secret and behind the scenes. Huge success and sabotaged it. Huge success and sabotaged it. For 35 years, from 17 to 52. In 2007, I had a divine intervention that was a dramatic invitation to change my life. I was a $3,000 a week cocaine addict, and I was making enough money that didn't matter. And I got home on a Friday night in August of 2007. I was getting ready to go out and party for the weekend. I might have come back Monday or Tuesday. I had 4 of my 10 kids living with me. They were teenagers. 3 were grown up and married.
Wow.
Yeah. 3 of them were grown up and married. 4 were living with me, and 3 were somewhere else with one of the women. And I was ready to go out to party, and they were old enough to take care of themselves. So if I came back on Monday or Tuesday or whatever, that would have been fine. So just before, I mean, it wasn't right, but nobody would have been hurt. So just before I went out, I had this urge to turn on the television. Now, that doesn't sound like anything, except when I went to do it, I realized I didn't know how. I'd had some electronics guy put in the biggest stuff you could buy, because, of course, that's the kind of crap you buy when you make all that money. But I never watched TV, so I didn't know how to turn it on. So one of my daughters, a teenage daughter, came in, turned the thing on with the remote, threw the remote at me, and stomped out of the room, dipweed. So I sat down to watch a program I'd never heard of before, and the name of it was Intervention. Now, Intervention's a reality TV show about, family members that stage interventions for busted loved ones. And the protagonist was a high-ranking executive with a cocaine problem. And so I watched about 10 minutes and I said, yeah, I'm not watching this crap.
I'd
I
imagine
turned it off.
it
Yeah.
hit you straight on the button.
Uh,
Yeah.
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 So I'm not watching this crap. I turned it off. I went around the house for about 15, 20 more minutes or something. Got ready to go out and I felt compelled to turn the TV back on. So I did. This time I knew how. So I turned the TV on and that program started over. And no, I don't have a DVR. And no, it wasn't on the schedule. And no, it can't do that. But it did. And it scared the crap out of me. So I watched it. And it went really badly. The guy yelled at his family, didn't do any good, stomped out, the whole 9 yards. But it freaked me out bad enough that instead of going out to party, I went to bed. And when I went to bed, then I went to hell. And what I mean by that is I had an experience that I can't describe, except it felt out of body and it felt like I was in a place, kind of like a theater, and on stage was a parade of my whole life, starting from when I was very young. When I grew up, the thing that started all this was I used to have a lot of physical discipline that today would be felony child abuse.
Yeah,
My
no,
mom used to,
I mean, I was raised, you know,
yeah, beat the shit out of me.
Yeah, you know, there's the same category. I'm in that sort of era.
Okay, so I believed that I was not okay, and so that all was paraded, and then all the stuff that I'd done as an addict and a creep, as a husband, married 3 times, you know, the whole parade of suffering. And at the end of that whole thing, there was a voice that said the words, "It is enough." And it wasn't angry or anything. It just said, "It is enough." So I woke up, and that was weird because the sun was shining in the window, and that's weird because the windows faced west. I got up, and it was 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. So I'd been somewhere for nearly 18 hours. And I got up and thought, okay, I've been invited to change. And so I'd have no idea what to do, but I knew I had to get out of everything I was doing and start over somehow. So I got up and threw $1,000 worth of stuff I had laying around away and said, okay, we're done. And I quit cold turkey. That day, never touched anything again. That was it.
Tip my hat to you there, sir, man. I'll admit, I smoke cannabis, mostly CBD, and I have a little drink. But I got on drugs at the age of 12, and then I quit maybe 5-6 years ago, maybe around there, maybe 7 years. Again, I don't really count the years because it's not relevant to myself. I'm like, I quit it, it's done. I'm not going to sit here and mark it off on a calendar, you know, but I can totally understand, you know, with the demons and facing a hellscape is, I mean, when I was at my worst, I was doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I mean, I was wild. I was practically working on a level that was like the 5th dimension. I was thinking there was fucking shadow people all over the place, and there was multiple conspiracies. It was wild. But one of the also things I learned was that, you know, there's capabilities to the human body in terms of the mind and how far we can go, and there was a lot that I learned. And I'm not saying it was all bad or all good, but there was some also emotional things that I learned from that, which were, you know, but I can understand, you know, and it took me to get to a stage like that where it was, you know, you have a moment where something is completely unexplainable, and you go, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because I still know reality and fact. I know them, and there's something here, as fucked up as I am, that is like, wait a minute, this completely, as messed up as I am, is breaking them boundaries. And when it breaks those boundaries, whatever it is, it breaks you emotionally, it makes you feel like, I don't know, it tears you like internally apart, and it literally makes you go, this isn't working. This isn't the life that is ever going to work. You know? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what happened. So I quit, walked away from the career, the job, everything, and started everything over. And after 2 or 3 years of, you know, trying to figure out what I was going to do, I ended up deciding to be a coach because of the changes that I had experienced, and because I finally realized that how I'd lived my life for all those years, didn't serve anybody. And I thought, I can do a lot better.
Serving you
And the
well.
way I can do it is by helping other people understand what I finally understood at 52 sooner. Excuse me.
No, you're okay. Honestly, I smoke and I drink on this show. Trust me, you're all good. You don't have to worry about coughing. Honestly,
All right.
after the amount of balls upsided at the start of the show, you're all good. Again, so I'm putting it out there. This is probably the loosest show in the world in terms of podcasting. I'm claiming that title for my own.
Okay.
You're all good. It's a title I'm going to self-proclaim. But how did, I mean, again, you took these steps to get to this point. You had this moment which pivoted it. What really centralized it? What made you go, okay, like this is like the moment. I need to be able to be better for everybody else, because we've all got it, man. I've got it. It was children for me,
Well, so it was just, I realized what I had been doing all these years, decades actually, wasn't working, that some dramatic event had happened that breaks the boundaries of reality, that says, invited me to do something else. I really didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew it wasn't what I had done. So I'm done with that. And I quit. Walked away from the contracts I had and just said, what am I going to do? And what really, the first, couple of years I spent trying to get myself organized. For the first time in my life, I talked to a counselor. I did some things I'd never done before in all my years. And again, I'm in my 50s. And so finally I did all that and started trying to get to where I could be a normal human. And the second part of the divine intervention actually happened 2 weeks later, because I was single at the time that happened for the third time, with those 4 kids living with me. And I didn't quit the job. I quit the drugs, but I didn't quit the job immediately. I didn't know what to do. So I went back to work. And because of the positions I was in, I used to get a lot of free stuff. People would give me free tickets to this and free everything, because people wanted to be nice to Kellan, right? Because I made important decisions. All right. So one of the things I got was a free pair of tickets to a concert. If you like classical music, you know who this is, Yo-Yo Ma, who's yeah, okay. So, and I'm like, dang, I don't want to waste this other ticket because I'm single. So I went to the groups that I managed and I said, who likes classical music? And some lady in one of the groups said, well, I do. And I asked her, well, have I ever given you anything before? And she said, no. I said, okay, fine. We'll see you there. So we met at the venue. Concert was spectacular. And halfway through the show, now I got to remember, I'm 2 weeks stone cold sober at this point. So halfway through the show, I had this feeling come over me that I recognized from 2 weeks earlier. And this voice in my head said, yeah, you need to marry this woman. And I said, you're insane. I've screwed that up 3 times officially with some other disasters in between. I said, that's not happening. Later that night, we were backstage, and of course, there were backstage passes and everything. And the voice came back and said, comma, and you need to tell her tonight. And so I went crazy and argued like you would have expected. She got me arrested for harassment and all kinds of stuff because she worked in one of my, But you don't win those arguments. So I did. And it went about like you would have expected. She thought I was insane. I said, are you crazy? What are you talking about? But within 2 weeks, she had her own set of experiences and she resigned her position. And we just sort of walked off into the sunset together. And about 2 months ago, we celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary.
Wow, man.
The reason that's important, isn't because of the magic love story, which was cool by itself. The reason is because she made it her business to go to work, to try to find me the resources I need for the first time in my life, to talk to somebody, to learn how to be a person, to learn how to tell the truth, to learn how to have a friend, to learn how to be a friend. All that crap that I had never done in
Yeah, I get you.
52 years.
No, I get you. That's
And so she is my business partner, my life partner, and the one that got the phone call saying, "Do we have a podcast?" Yes.
well,
Oh, hey, we have a
she's your
podcast.
well, she's your counterpart, isn't she? It's like yin yang, isn't it? Excuse me, myself. It's it's weird because I mean, we're both men here, but it's weird because there's always that phrase behind every great man is a strong woman, or whatever it is. But
Here's what
it's so
happened.
true. It's
She's
very
an
true.
angel. It's like God said, "Look, dude, you don't know how to do this. You've screwed this up who knows how many times. Let me help you." That one. I mean, that was just straight up. And so, yeah, I won't even say, magic. She runs our back end stuff. She does all of our web work. She manages our contractors. She does, it was just.
You don't need to sing of praises. It's the world will get it on a heartbeat. Just because here's the thing that I love about podcasting is some people can capture a second of emotion in a sentence and go, "Oh, I understand it. I get it all. I get everything that this person is trying to say during its complexity." And some people don't get it. Some people do. It depends how much empathy you have towards society and people. But I tend to find that empaths or empathetic people, whatever you want to say, they tend to go, right, I get it. And I tend to find that most podcasters are these kind of people. So even then, the minute you spoke about your wife, I knew in an instant, man, that was your soulmate. You can put it in 50 different word phrases, your dream boat, your love heart. You can keep going and going and going. And that's what it is, because you can hear it in your voice. It's
And you want to know the funny part?
Go on, Karen.
Her name is Joy.
Wow.
Yeah, like you can't make this stuff up.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, this is again, like, it's crazy, man. Joy. Do you know? I've never actually met somebody called Joy. Do you know? There's like things you have in life where you go, "Oh, I've never done this." I've never actually come across or met somebody called Joy. It's one of those. I've also never met a girl by the name of Summer. There's certain things. It is what it is.
So that's how it happened. We walked away from everything, started over, and after a couple of years of talking to people and stuff, I started saying, what do I know how to do? And what I'd been paid a lot of money as a consultant to do is to help people do things they thought were impossible. And so I thought, okay, how do I recast that? Because it's a skill I have. And I said, well, I think that's coaching. So I went to some
word, the way you use recast for a skill set.
Mhm.
I like that. I've never used that. Normally people just go, "Oh, I'm just turning my skill sets," but it's not. You're recasting your skill sets. I get it.
So I went to, I looked up some coaching schools and I enrolled in some and to see what the industry was like. And I've spent the last 12 years building a coaching practice, which is now big and around the world. And I've very successful, really happy. And the thing that's most fun about it is I have discovered that my greatest joy is helping people do things they didn't believe they could do. That's fun.
It's been the hardest thing you've had to overcome during this time of not in terms of the past, in terms of like life coaching. It's what I ask every life coach, because they all give very different answers. It's,
As an executive, big dog, hoo-ha, all that crap, it was easy because I was doing that thing over there. When you're a coach and you're trying to enroll, it's not that thing over there, and especially coming from depression, it was like, why would anyone listen to me? Why would anyone talk to me? Why would anyone believe anything? That whole self-doubt nonsense that gets in the way of coaching. It gets in the way of getting clients. It gets in the way of closing deals. It gets in the way of everything. And starting from that place of hating myself anyway, and then trying to be a coach and having to overcome it just to live and then to overcome it to have a business, that was the hardest thing.
Man, I mean, that's what's crazy as well. Is this? It's like, you see, this is why I love talking to people, because it's like, to me, it's like your brain is just ticking and ticking and ticking and ticking and constantly working things out, and also then snowballing things into it, and then working also that out. And that it's a very weird. That's my analogy, but it's a very extreme, cool skill set to have, where you can, live a reckless life, take on a bunch of experience and knowledge, and then when shit comes your way, you're like, hey, I've got you. I know exactly what's going on, to the point where when their snowball comes down, you almost put yourself into that snowball, but then it comes to a stop. Does that make sense?
It does, and I had a lot of help. Joy helped. My relationship with the divine helped. Like, there was nothing special about me, and I actually have no idea why the divine, God, whatever,
Oh, okay.
why the divine would pay that much attention, except, and this is one of the things that I finally learned, I'm not important. But if he'll pay that much attention to me, he'll pay that much attention to anybody.
Right. I mean, I don't ever get into religion much. I mean, I'm a pagan, but I believe in all gods. I believe that there's a God of Jesus. I believe in everything. There's no boundaries to my religion. To the point where even this Sunday, I'm probably going to go to church. For the first time, I'm actually going to go to church this Sunday, which is pretty, for me, it caused a speculation in our house. I'm like, hey, do you want to actually go to church this Sunday? And my partner's like, what? I'm like, come on, man, what the fuck you got to lose? Like, let's just go. We'll take Dane. It'll be a good thing. There's going to be some songs and shit. It'll be fun. What's the problem? It's better than sitting indoors. We'll meet some new people,
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a pagan. It's not exactly my wheelhouse, but this is how much I'm willing to go out of my own boundaries just to do something that I don't know. I'm not exact. It is what it is. I don't want to delve too much into
Well, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm just knowing that there's power beyond what we understand.
Oh,
I'm
there is.
giving it a name, and that name intervened and said, yo, dipweed, not anymore. Let's take this other path. So that's kind of how I'm thinking of it. And my realization was I'm not any more important than anybody else. So if the divine power, whatever name you give it, will do that for me, that divine power will do it for anyone. And my conclusion is we just ignore it most of the time.
I think we do. I think here's the thing, like with technology, it just makes us bypass a lot of. I'm a big believer in like cosmic forces and stuff that just consistently works. Like deja vu. Deja vu is a thing which is so unexplainable. Scientists can't explain it. Like, why does deja vu happen? Scientists can't work it out to this day. Maybe they have now. I'm judging this on a year-old statement, but there's stuff like deja vu and there's cosmic things where you just go, oh my God, I feel this moment. I get it. And it's something that you cannot replicate anywhere else but in the actual fucking environment you're in, like the physical manifestation of the universe that you're living in. And I don't know, man, it's a hard take.
Well, it is. It just lets us know that there's more at work here than we can see. And, whether or not we choose to get involved or name it or ignore it or whatever is our choice we have, but it's there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily believe. It's tricky. I can't necessarily say that because I believe in a lot of gods, but most of them are all, they're all over the place. I believe in tons of gods. I don't want to go down the religious route of talking shit. But I think there's a lot out there, and we're just never gonna know, because until you've probably passed on and gone into the next world, who knows? I even believe that some people that did kind of die, they come back and probably chatted shit because of the story. Ooh, I've seen the light, blah 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 blah. maybe you did, but maybe you just heard it on a film and you watched some stuff and that's what happened. Not necessarily all the case, but I believe that until we're never going to know. We're not going to. It's impossible, you know.
I understand what you're saying. I totally get that people feel like they don't know until they know, and then they know.
Very spiritual, man. I mean, this is some very spiritual conversation. It's very rare that I go down these channels. Let's rewind it back and let's actually
Okay.
talk about the industry again. You said you was in the industry. You know what? I don't know if this is too personal of a question. I mean, again, I'm an ex-drug fiend. But what got you into cocaine? You don't
It was
have to
just another
answer.
tool. No, it's fine. It's just another tool. My real addiction, and I didn't know this at the time, but my real addiction was to self-loathing. And so I
Right,
had to
okay.
keep doing things that proved one way or another that I was as bad as I thought I was.
Right,
So whether it's ruin a relationship or trash a work situation or trash my body or attempt suicide, which I did twice, or
and
try to,
been there.
how much more can I do? How much more can I do? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I wonder if it'll get you, be all just, and it wasn't for any other reason than I couldn't live with the having success. I couldn't, when things went really, really well, it's like, I don't deserve this. I can't have it. And I didn't think that consciously, but in retrospect, that was the cycle. I kept doing that. And so the real addiction was self-loathing, whether it was cocaine, MDMA, ketamine, a whole long list of things as long as your arm. It didn't matter. It was just as long. And my favorite phrase used to be, I just want to be unconscious.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only reason I talk about it is because I've been there. Like, even now, I'm still. Again, you'll be able to understand this. Is like, let's get these headphones perfect. It's like when you're at the bottom of that K pit, like that K hole pit, and everything's just it's just done, isn't it? You know, you're at absolute pure relaxation and everything's bliss. And it's so tricky to wow. First of all, it's a great feeling, but to ever replicate it 4 times over is impossible. You're never going to get there again. I'm going to put that one out there. But the thing with drugs is, I used to love getting in these states of almost despair, where, like you said, self-loathing, where you're almost like, hey, I need to do better on drugs today than I did yesterday. Like, we'll smoke 10 spliffs today, we're going to do 12 tomorrow, and a line. The next day, blah, blah, blah. I lived that way for many years, and it fucked me up. It's terrible.
Well, I can't imagine that whoever or whatever you want to call the creative process, the creator, the divine, I can't imagine that was the intent. Here, let me make all these people, and the goal of this is just to see how badly you can hurt each other or ruin your body or your life. Go ahead, more. That I just can't buy any of that.
No, I get you. It's a strange one because even now, I mean, I smoke a bit of cannabis, have a bit of a drink every now and again. But the reason I do that again is that weird creative flow. Because I mean, even when I'm not drinking, my head's on the same sort of game. But occasionally, you have a bit of a drink and your synapses start firing. But it's the same sort of chase. There's no difference between me right now having a beer and a junkie. There's no real difference. It's the same dopamine release. It's the same feeling. You know what I mean? It's the same. There's no difference. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. I just my own personal preferences. I ended all of it because I didn't like.
No, 100%. I can get that. It's very tricky. I don't blame you for ending it all. I've got a hell of a lot of respect for doing so. It's very. The first thing I'll say is it's what people don't realize is to quit everything, it is one of the most hardest and courageous things you ever have to do. You will put yourself through the worst shit in the world. But when you come out the back end of it, you're a champion, you know? And that,
Well, one of the things I really enjoy about the coaching profession, I mean, I think of coaching as being in the people encouragement business. And if people come with difficulties, whether it's in relationships or their health or substances or money or their business isn't doing well, like they can't tell me a story that I haven't heard. And they can't tell me a story I haven't seen. And so the truth isn't, well, I've been through that so I can help you. The truth is I really know how it feels. Let's do this. Give me your hand and let's do this. And yes, I actually do know what you're feeling like. And you can stop anytime you want this feeling. And mostly it's self-doubt, self-loathing. The substances, whether they're actual chemicals or other behaviors, they're just a substitution for us not trusting or believing in ourselves.
it is. It's 100%. I mean, I've spoke about this with other life coaches where I've gone, some people, especially with drugs, some people can't face sober reality at all. Sober reality for some people, their mind just melts because they've been doing whatever it is for so long that in the first 2 or 3 days of them doing, let's say as an example, I was a extreme alcoholic. I did a bunch of weed all the time. I was on heroin. I was a mess. I did crack every once in a blue moon or whatever. We can just keep going down the line. And then all of a sudden, I just went cold turkey. And those first days, man, they are a mess. You know,
No question.
But what's scary is, and let's say they was doing it for a month. Well, that's okay, because if there was just a record for a month, the back end of that isn't so bad. They had a month worth of bullshit. Well, let's say they did it for 11 years and they lived every single day out of their mind, not actually realizing what sober was. And I mean, there's so many people out there that do it. It is predominant where people just wake up, they already have a hangover. No, let's get fucked up. Let's have a line or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. And then it continues.
No, it doesn't.
Say that again?
I said, no, it doesn't matter what it is.
No,
it's just, what do I need to be not conscious?
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah. The reality escape. It makes no difference what the drug is. It's just escaping from the state of mind, which is which is, it's kind of weird to say, but the normal brain, like just a normal human being. And
in one of the 12-step programs that I went to, they use the phrase dealing with reality on its own terms. Living life on its own terms, learning to live things as they are instead of with the warped perception that every substance brings to you. And it isn't even just the substances. It can be gambling. It can be all kinds of other other things that just pull you out of just dealing with life on its own terms as it is.
No, this is why I love talking to life coaches. It's not because I'm trying to get 1,000 life coaches to sort my own life out without paying for it. You know, I'm glad I got a laugh then. That was my first good joke of the night. I'm glad I got a mild laugh from that one. But no, it is what it is. It's kind of crazy, you know. Reality is so bent and warped, even to I have young kids, like toddlers,
really?
and I can't imagine how their life's going to be in 20 years.
Well, you know, one of the things going on right now, and I know your episode's not going to go live for a while, but we are watching the news, you know, and my wife is actually Ukrainian. Yeah, my wife's Ukrainian, and we're watching that whole.
My heart goes out to her. Jesus. Regardless of when the show's going to go out, man.
Well, you know, all this stuff going on, and you look at that, well, in context of you saying about what kind of a world are the kids, your kids, and for me, it's grandkids, going to grow up in, like, sometimes it makes me just want to say, can't we do better than this?
That's the tricky
Can't
thing,
we
though, isn't
just
it?
do better than this for them?
Well, I mean, the problem is, sorry, again, I've been half watching the whole thing unfold. I'm going to get it out of my phone right now.
Yeah.
It's been by my side. Again, excuse for the people that are listening. I've been watching on India Today because they have
Hmm?
people on the front line. And it's
India? What's
India
it called?
India Today. I'll send you a YouTube link.
Okay.
They have people on the front line the whole time. They're very, very on it. Again, this is gonna hit. I said this last episode, but this is gonna hit late. But I don't give a shit. If anything, I'll pull it forward. I don't care. But I'm always up around the clock, and I'm not an expert in war games or geopolitics or how shit goes down, but you know, I was up in 4:30 a.m. in the morning, and you know, I got this weird sort of link, and I was like, "What's going on?" And you know, all of a sudden, Russia's declared war, and this was like, I got it straight away, 4:30 in the morning, and I was like,
Wow.
this can't be real." And I followed it through for like 24 hours. Like I mean, this is the second day for me.
Yeah.
It's been going and going. But I spoke to numerous guests and stuff like that. I mean, it was crazy. I spoke to a guest 2 days prior when this all kicked off, and he was like, "What do you think is going to happen with Russia and Ukraine?" And I was like, personally, I can't remember what I said, but I was very unsure that it would step forward. And you know, 2 days later, it just went catastrophic. Shout out, you know, my heart goes out to all the people in Ukraine right now, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people having to fucking go into bomb shelters and having to travel to do so. It's not fucking good, you know. But sorry, carry on, man. So
No, that's all. I
my
just
voice, excuse
even
my voice breaking there. It's got a bit emotional.
yeah. Well, just you know, you're talking about kids and grandkids, and what kind of a world are we living or leaving, or it's like, you know, I guess that's one of the things I really like about being a coach is I get to help people that are trying to respond to that yearning to do good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then we live in a world where there is so much. I mean, like, you know, the party line from the Kremlin is it's their fault. Yeah, okay. In what universe are you threatened
Yeah.
from those people? Like,
Nothing. It's
nobody
very.
believes that horse
No.
shit.
I mean, even my own partner was like, I mean, I'm not a fucking expert, but she knows when I'm looking into stuff, I look into it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
again, I'm not an expert, but she was like, "Hey, what's the deal with all this? Why are we getting involved and all this?" And I'm like, "Hey, because there was a lot of deals signed from like in 2014, many years ago, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, and she just doesn't get it. I mean, no English person, nobody really gets it, you know." Here's what's fun as well is the Grand Prix was in Russia as well, wasn't it?
Well, they canceled it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that was there this week. But there's been a whole bunch of sanctions and stuff like that, but it's so wild. But it's I don't know enough. You know, I don't know enough to be confident enough to talk about it. You know, that's all
Well,
I
I
can
just
say.
know it's sad, and it's
It
a
is.
lot of people are getting hurt. That's what
It's
I
a
know.
very grim and dire situation. That's as much as I can say, and my heart goes out to them. So obviously, your wife has family out there. Are they okay?
So her immediate family, her dad immigrated in World War II time, so 50 years ago. And but her, you know, we've got cousins, and she does cousins and extended family that are there, and some folks that are not, you know, that are not close relatives. We don't have anybody close, but enough that she knows their names and knows what cities they're in, you know, or were in. Who knows?
Well, I mean, Here's something that is crazy. Like, whoever writ the playbook of rules on like teaming up with people? You know, it's like back in the day in terms of World War II. Obviously, the Japanese, for some reason, just a little bit after then, decided to team up with the Nazis for whatever reason. You know, there's a whole bunch of very strange like counteractions over the world, and it's crazy. It might sound racist what I'm going to say. I don't think it is, but it's very weird that all whites don't stick together. Like, we're always going up against fucking like like since the dawn of this country, you know, we went up against the fucking Vikings, the French, and we were going against everyone. It's not a racist comment, but like, people think that it's just like a whites against everybody, but I actually think that we're imploding ourselves, and we've been doing it since the dawn of time. Like,
Well, I don't know that it
fought.
has anything. Yeah, I don't know if it has anything. I doubt that it has anything to do with race. I mean, some people make it about that.
No,
There seems to
they
be
don't want to
something
say.
about us needing to be aggressive and take
Yeah, yeah.
stuff that isn't ours, and however you want to frame it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting to. I mean, I was trying to, irregardless, fuck off the race side of it. People always think
Yeah.
it's about race, and you know, there's weird sort of rules where, you know, like NATO, it's like, you know, all these countries teaming up and blah blah blah, and then Russia didn't want to join in, and there's so many weird sort of rules and bullshit against it. It's so weird, but it's kind of crazy. I don't like to talk about race because, especially not with Norwegian tattoos all over my head and skull, people will start thinking I'm a neo-Nazi again, and then my career's blown.
Yeah. Well,
Not the case. The people out
No.
there, no, my friends all know me. I'm joking. I'm a comedian. That's what I do. I chat shit for a living. Not a goddamn neo-Nazi. All my close friends and people that listen to this show know that. They know I'm not.
I believe you. I'm not worried about it.
No, you're all good. I just have to put it out there. But it's crazy, these old World War conflicts. It's so bizarre. Do you think we're on the brink of a World War III?
I don't know. My wife, Joy, was asking that earlier. She said, you know, she was wondering if it's going to be a larger conflict.
Yeah,
Who knows?
I mean,
I don't know.
the UK, we've so far say, well, I don't know. We've said we're going to get involved, but in terms of boots on the ground, it's not really happening yet.
I don't think anybody's sent troops into the country.
No,
I
we
think
we
everybody's
actually,
all around it in a
yeah,
circle, but I don't think anybody's in the country yet.
no. I think the only thing that I didn't know was this is stupid of me, very stupid. This shows my intelligence. Was earlier on, someone was asking me about it, and I go, well, what do you mean, the goddamn Russian Navy? And then I thought about it after like a hot second. I was like, wait a minute, it's the second largest. Wait, no, it's the largest naval fleet in the world. Like,
Oh, well.
and they're really on it. And for a hot minute, I was like, I almost forgot that because I'm from the UK, and again, you know, we have the Navy, which is meant to be the best. You know, I was like, I don't think it's going to be the case.
Hmm.
My nephew's out there. He's a goddamn Marine, so I want to shout out to him again. Poor son of a bitch. I don't know what he's doing. I hope he's all good. But it's crazy, man. It's like with the whole World War thing. It's
I hope not.
no.
We don't need to do that.
Here's
I hope.
my random hot take. It's every 100 years. If you look back in history, there's been a world war. You can just go
Really?
back. Yeah, well, World War II, World War One. If you look at the dates, we're right in between the capitals of that right now ourselves. Well, if you count back 8 years from what's going on now, well, that's what was going on originally in Ukraine and Russia. You just got to take the 8 years back. Well, you could take 100 years off that, you know, and then There was a bunch of other stuff going on. You take another 100 years, the Civil War, another 100 years, the conquistadors. You can just keep going further and further back. But roughly every 100 years, there's a big war by pattern. You ever heard of Martin Armstrong?
I haven't. Should I?
He's a very cool guy. He is a business forecaster who essentially got jailed or set up for doing a Ponzi scheme way back when. Like,
Okay.
he got essentially set up. But the legend and myth is, and again, this is why I believe it was set up, and there's a documentary about him, but he collected coins throughout the whole of his life. He just kept collecting old coins and coins from every century, just on and on and on and on. He was a coin collector. And then what he did, the genius that he was worked out a dynamic where from, let's say we're in Roman times 100 Anno Domini, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And then everything's all good. We're going to be putting coins out 98% gold. Several years later, with the decline of Rome, they're going to decrease their gold in the coins. And it goes on and on and on. And then what this guy worked out was essentially over periods of history, when countries would decimalize their currency, they would be going to war, especially also when they would move out heavy assets. And I mean, the guy's worth looking into, Martin Armstrong.
All right.
And again, he made a bunch of money in the 80s and 90s. He had $1 trillion company because he basically just worked up all of this information and data. And he basically was he made an algorithm. And the algorithm was basically a war predicting machine, because he would take all these coins over 2,000 years, work out when people were moving assets, work out when gold was getting reduced from 90 to 70% consistency down to 20% or whatever. And then over that whole period and model, it was like, okay, this is what it was. And then he got set up for a Ponzi scheme, and the FBI jailed him and was like, we'll let you out if you give us the model. He never gave up the model. The dude's now out of jail, but he's like all over the place. He's on like never on a fixed basis. They had to let him out due to the fact that you're holding a man to ransom over bullshit facts, and it's like, hey, I'm going to stab you, committed murder, and then I'll set somebody else up, and they're going to take the fall for 20 years. That's not going to happen, is it? It's going to catch up eventually.
Right.
You know what I mean? So eventually shit just didn't catch up with him, and he got released. Martin
I'll
Armstrong,
have to check that out. Yeah.
Very, very good look into. It's one of those. Again, you seem like the kind of guy that looks into stuff, extremely inquisitive, and you're on the ball.
Yeah, I put him in the browser. I'll check him out later. Cool.
There's a documentary. It's I think it's on Amazon. It's called The Forecaster.
Yeah, economic forecaster.
Yeah, it is worth the watch. It's what I do for a living. I talk to people, I research stuff, and then I go, hey, this is a good one.
Very good. Well, I'll have to take a look at that.
If it intrigues you, I think you will. Oh.
Cool.
Oh my God, Russia's just lost 39 billion in a day. Holy shit. That's crazy.
Who lost 39 billion in a day?
Russia. Right.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's hitting up again. For those listeners out there, I've got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to go check that out.
It's no, but I feel that there's again, we've had some weird stories, we've gone back and forth. I feel there's some more stories to tell with your own stories. Obviously, I don't want to get too much into your drug past because
That's fine. That's over.
no. But I personally believe and feel that anyone that's done drugs shouldn't have to bring it up. It's done, and history. If they personally bury it, I ain't gonna bring that up. But I do believe there's some wild stories in you, sir. You know, I think there's a couple of wild stories and tales that our listeners would love to hear, man. There's got to be some.
Well, there are all kinds of stories, but details of old rowdy stories are I think best left to the past. So
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, this is how I feel. It's just I like to ask because occasionally.
so here's my favorite cocktail used to be what I called the EKG, which was ecstasy, cocaine, and ketamine.
Oh yeah, man. I mean,
I'd grind all those up as a powder, and that was I called it EKG, not because it was the right initials, but yeah, but it was ecstasy, ketamine, and cocaine.
That is that. You see, I'm not promoting drug use, kids, but
Don't. I had a dream. I had a
Don't
dream
do it.
one night. I woke up 11 times. It was so bad. I woke up 11 times, and every time I woke up, I thought I really woke up.
Yeah.
And somebody knocked on the door of the place I was living. I went and opened the door, and nobody was there, and I went out and looked in the hall for them, and then a few things went on, and then I woke up again, and I kept doing it, and it was like the movie Inception. It was 11 layers deep, 11 layers deep before I finally woke up. When I woke up the 11th time, I wasn't even sure that was the last time, because everything was so real. And so after the 11th time of waking up, it turned out that was the last one, but I didn't know that. So yeah, I mean, the stories are ridiculous.
What I will say is, again, I mean, whenever I say, don't do it, kids, people are going to do that. But what I will say on top of that is, hey, kids, whoever's listening to this for real, you do not want to do it. It's as fun as it fucking ever sounds. I'm the advocate of drugs. I'm the devil's advocate. You do not want to do it, man. All you're going to do is fuck up your heart in the future years to come. Like, legitimately. I have heart palpitations now because I was a reckless drug fiend. I'm fucking 30 years old. I should be having goddamn heart palpitations. You know what I'm saying? Don't take it, kids.
Well, the thing about it is, so there are two things. One, the terrible, sad experiences have taught me a lot of lessons that have made me a better coach. But the cost of that was the pain, ruined relationships, hundreds of thousands of wasted dollars, a lot of lies, a lot of time, a lot of pain and sadness. And so whatever I thought I was enjoying at the time, when I put it in the balance and scale against the broken relationships and hundreds of thousands of wasted dollars, it was stupid. Completely stupid.
What kids don't get is like, I mean, again, I make my jokes, but it is honestly, again, I've got kids myself, and the minute one of my kids says to me, man, I'll admit, I will say, be open with me, and I'll look. It's better to be open with me, and we'll talk about it. But the minute it happens, man, I ain't gonna lie. If my son come up to me and says, listen, I had a fucking couple of pills the other day, man, that motherfucker's going to get a slap down the head. I don't give two shits about all this bullshit, child. No chance, man. It's going to be like, hey, this is not happening. Like, you are going to genuinely ruin your life. Like,
well, I know so many that have.
Yeah, I do too.
And so they're in jail, they're dead, and that's like, okay, what was that good for? Nothing.
Yeah, that's why I'm so heavy. In terms of my kids, man. Like, I'll admit, the people that listen to my show, you know, they know I have a smoke and a drink, but I look after my children. I'm always there. I take them to school in the mornings. I get my shit done. Bada bing, bada boom. It is what it is, you know. But the people that out there that think they can conquer the world and have absolutely no, like not even tolerance, but they have fuck all tolerance and remorse, and they just end up in the pits. You know, it's very, very tricky. You know, it's a weird life, and
Yeah.
this is why I love talking to a lot of life coaches as well, because a lot of them have all been in the same sort of deal.
Well, I
as
think
they're
one of the
working
things
in.
that draws, I think one of the things that draws people to life coaching is some struggles. It doesn't have to be substances, but some kinds of struggles, whether it might have been childhood or divorce or abuse or substances or whatever, it draws people to life coaching because after you've come through it, then I don't know, it's something about our nature. We have a desire to be of service. And so then we kind of feel like it's an opportunity, you know, and we get called to do that, right?
The call to operation, you know.
Yeah. So I certainly feel that call to help everywhere I can.
Life, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you was born on the earth to do it, or was it just something? Again, I know you said that stuff hit you like midway through your life, but was there ever a moment
I
in your
absolutely
childhood
think
where it was like, okay, it's gonna
I think
come?
there's things that we're all given gifts and talents when we come here. We all have opportunities and stuff we agreed to do before we came, I think. I think sometimes it takes us a long time to figure out what that is or to say yes. But I believe, with my own experience, that we all have gifts, we all have assignments and opportunities. And the happiest we can ever be is when we say yes and lean into those opportunities. That's what I think.
100%. I mean, I could agree with that. You know, I mean, I just had nose dive my microphone and thought, oh, I was too close. That's a first as well. There's been a few firsts this week. This is the first time I've been so close to my microphone. My last show, there was 25 minutes of a female talking before I got a word in edgeways. Very wild. Nothing against females. It was a great conversation. I was genuinely intrigued by someone that is the female version of Dr. Dolittle.
Wow.
No bullshit aside, she was a very spiritualistic character. But no, it's such a, you know, with a calling to stuff, and when you always know things, it's such a weird thing. It's, I don't know. Like, what's your next steps?
Well, I've written 16 books. I have 6 underway. My wife and I are going to move over to Vancouver Island in October. And because I had 10 kids and such a raucous time with all the relationships, I still have kids that don't talk to me. So I have a lot of opportunity and work. I have 25 or 30 grandkids. And so there's lots of glorious and joyful opportunity to work in restoring and reestablishing relationships, because some of them are still struggling on their own journey like everybody does. And so there's lots of opportunity. Oh, another thing that's next is I'm in the middle of a 3rd album. I did an album of music with...
See, I knew you was an author. I was going to get into it, but my show is very loose that I forget stuff. I didn't know you did music.
So this is a book, Tightrope of Depression, My Journey from Darkness, Despair, and Death to Light, Love, and Light.
That's sick. That's a good cover.
So I did this book, and when I got done, I thought, what can I do to make a difference? So then because I'm a musician, I wrote an album of 11 songs to tell stories from this. As soon as I got done with that, I hadn't really planned on writing more. Then I realized there was a volume 2, and that's Down from the Gallows.
Wow.
And so volume 2 also has an album of music, and there will be a concluding volume of the trilogy, which also has an album. That book will be out in January of next year, and the album's half done. So I have a lot of music.
Can I send you
Also,
some random price and get the books and the EPs and signed?
Yeah.
Next time I go in, I was in my studio, unfortunately, decided to take a bunch of shitty water in. It might as well be a submarine at the moment. It's an
That's no fun.
no, it's an amphibious studio. So, like, it took me 3 bits to get to that joke there. Yeah, it's an amphibious studio. But when my next studio comes into play, when I move, I would like to, again, it will be indoors. At the minute, I'm in my fucking kitchen. I have an oven next to me, which I love it. One of my previous guests pointed it out to me. I was making food on the show. I was like serving plates and shit. Oh, there you go. And it was extremely funny. I thought it was terrible, but when I look back at it, I was like, that was actually really good. But when I get the new studio, I would love to have a bunch of books from previous authors that I've had. I'd just like to have a bunch of work that I can have in the background. Just because I love backdrops. My last backdrop was like a bunch of skeletons and skulls and some old witchy books, and there was a whole bunch of stuff. That was
Cool.
personal
Well,
myself.
yeah, let me know when you get it built. That'll be fun.
It will. I mean, I'll happily pay for the shipping or the cost of the books. I don't give a shit, man. It's just I want a whole bookshelf of the authors that I've had. I knew you was an author. I was going to get into it. I just didn't get the chance. It was it's a loose show. I was going to bring up the books. It was. I'm glad you did it for me. You saved me a job. It was very tricky. Sorry, my eyes keep getting distracted due to the fact of, I think, the fact that Russia's just seized Chernobyl. It's pretty bizarre. And 137 Ukrainians have just been killed as of.
That's awful.
It's terrible. It's again, I don't mean to be a bummer on the whole thing. I'm going to do a live show myself later to keep and correspond with this, but India today is they've got the boots.
Well,
on
I'm
the
going to have to
ground.
look that up. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, I this is as much time as I've booked
No,
today, so
you're
I'm
all
going to
good.
need to
I
be
was
about
gonna-
done.
No, I was going to do an hour anyway. We went over. Due to, again,
It's all
very
good.
loose. I fucked up at the start. We brought it round. We flipped it. We twisted it. Listen,
And it's all cooked and ready to go.
it certainly is. Listen, Kellan, where can people follow you? You are a very wild, extreme cat who.
You know, it's
It's very
funny when you have a name like Kellan Fluckinger, you can't hide.
No.
If someone tells me they can't find me, there's only 2 things that could be true. 1, they didn't try, or 2, they didn't spell my name right. Because if you spell my name right, you can find me on Amazon, on Google, on Facebook, on LinkedIn,
Can I
on
say
YouTube.
one thing, you're someone. I don't know who's working for you, but they put an N in your name earlier when it was sent.
Ah, no N, no INGER, just
No. I
IGER.
can't remember who it was. Just give me a second. I don't mean to call them out, but I'll also call out my own terrible staff. I'll call them out. I've got one person I'm going to call out, and he decided to make a shit show of a Marvel joke. It was like, oh, well, basically, I made a joke about a Marvel film that was in the previews. That's you. Angel?
Angel is my gal that books me on podcasts. Yeah, she does a really good job.
Oh. At one point, there was an N in there. And
Well,
that's
it's just
why
a
I put it
mistake.
on my
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I put it on my sheet of paper.
Oh, yeah.
I'm terrible with names. I'm very, very terrible. And when I do my notes, I write it on like sheets of paper. I do like this and then a bunch of other stuff. There was an N in there when I read it. I will apologize.
Well, yeah, that's okay.
Later.
No problem. We're all good. It's spectacular.
You know, I'd love to get you back on at a further date. I think we can get more loose than this. I think I'm a bit tight myself at the moment. I feel like I'm a bit tight. I feel like myself, I could get more loose. You're loosey-goosey, baby. Loosey-goosey. But I feel myself, I'm a little bit tight. I always invite everyone back on my show. I think there's another show to come. which will be more loose, where I don't
Sounds fun.
where I don't fuck up the introduction due to a bunch of notes which I didn't write. It's not my handwriting. I will also point that out when I write my own notes, I can read it, but I asked my partner to go, hey, can you just do me a favor? Can you write my introduction tonight? Because I'm going to go for a quick smoke. And then she wrote it, and then, you know, your ultimate life podcast looks like a K on my sheet, which is like literally it's right there. You see that little?
Yeah, your ultimate like. Well, it could be your ultimate like instead of your ultimate life, but that's okay.
Well, the K blends into the E.
Yeah.
Almost like hieroglyphics. So I will point that out there. But listen, it has been a very, very pleasurable show. It's been amazing. I feel
Thank you.
It has. It's been very, very fun. I feel this is going to be one of the strangest yet probably most open shows I've done this month. Maybe because of my fuck ups, but however, it works, and it was a great show. We've consistently gone back and forth, blah blah blah. And you're a very super great guy. You know, you're on the ball. You know your shit, and I mean you're in camo. What more can I say? You know, what more can I say?
Delighted to meet you today, and thank you. And I appreciate your work, and I really have a soft spot for people that do all the work that it takes to put a podcast together. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much. Well, this has been the Posthuman Podcast. Today we've been here with Kellan Fluckinger.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah.
I'll try it again. And catch you later next time, people. Thank you very much. Good night, people.